This is Drew at Friday Night Dark, and we are here to discuss EVPs a little bit more closely. I'm going to use an example which I obtained, well, by myself. This one was not only unexpected, this particular EVP that I'm going to be sharing is one that I've had other people actually listen to. Some were paranormal investigators, and although they couldn't exactly explain away, there were some question marks. I'm going to put this all on the table and be open for what I'm about to share. And there are two reasons for this. And the first is that I want to point out that anybody, regardless of what you do or do not believe, can produce and capture EVP. Now, just a quick review. EVP itself is electronic voice phenomenon. What does that mean? Well, this is something where there's a noise or there is some type of intelligible comment or phrase that's not only in intelligent response to whatever it is that you're asking or saying, but cannot be easily, or for that matter, cannot be at all explained that has taken place. Phenomenon. It is one that's recorded on some medium, whether it be an analog tape or is on some type of a digital recorder. In previous conversations with our paranormal investigator, it has been shared that it doesn't really make a difference of which one to use. The result will be the same. What that means is that entities, any energies or whatnot, that manifest themselves are going to electronically interfere and influence what it is that is presented or is present at time of recording. They will influence those things which make ones and zeros in a digital recorder, or influence the magnetic filings on an analog tape. This is important, and largely because it means that not only can you find an entity and record it on any medium that can record and play back, it also means that you will find many ways to capture and record them. And it validates a question of whether or not ghosts in general can be captured, whether in audio or video form. Now, I keep thinking of Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars, and there's a reason why, is because as he's training Luke Skywalker, he says, don't always trust your eyes because they can be made to deceive you. With video, there are such things as CGI animation and other tricks to self and superimpose pictures of things, shapes, or whatnot, and they would just let the imagination at that point take over. So, having said all of that, the same thing can be said for audio. I could certainly mix in something subtly in the background, and I could possibly even make it so that I manipulate certain sounds. But again, if it's something that's done impromptu, out of nowhere, meaning it was just a compulsion, and something shows up that wasn't part of what was expected, there would be cause to investigate as to why. There are a few things there that I would probably dare to share. There is an open window. There is a car that drives by. It is taken at a time when there wasn't anybody really home, and it was in the evening time when most people were already away. I would also point out that there is the recording itself is the result of a script. So I'll lay the story down, and that is that I was invited to be part of a paranormal investigation. It was for a library that was to happen in North Ogden in Utah, and it was many years ago. Out of impulse, I decided to go over the questions because they decided they would go ahead and let me do a solo, as they called it, meaning I was going to go ahead and record and collect some data from a specific room, and I would be there by myself. Disheartening maybe to some, frightening to others, and still yet exciting to me. Anyhow, the whole point of that exercise was to capture data in a place they knew would probably produce some type of EVP. So I was going to prepare myself with some of the questions that I had collected and that I had overheard, and I put them into a sequence. Now here is where it gets weird. I went off script. What that means is that I had a list of questions, and when I get to a certain point, I actually change directions because it was almost as if I felt there was something in the room with me. Now, I want to point out is where I resided, there'd always been a complaint of that. And what I mean by a complaint is that everybody in the household where I had been complained that there were things, weird stuff they would see occasionally. Even the animals that we kept would see things. There was always an errant signs that would show up out of nowhere. A prime example, once there was footsteps heard on the second floor when there were only 2 people in the house and both were on the first floor of the house. So anyone who knows me knows that I immediately was interested as to why. But again, no one could account for what was going on. And it wasn't until much later when the entire household was together at a new place and it was openly discussed and many words were given about experiences that couldn't necessarily or openly be explained. Again, this is the background I want to lay out with the event that's about to be shared. The recording, as I went through it, I knew something was there, or at least I felt something was there. And after I ask one question, I go in a different direction. I want to point out it was by compulsion that I changed my questions. I can't duplicate this, but I can share what I captured. And that is what's going to happen next. And I want to emphasize that in doing so, it is something that I've made preparations. I want to make it a little bit louder, so you're going to hear it not just once, you're going to hear it twice. And I want to be clear that it has been at least confirmed it could be something. It hasn't been a definite, yes, this is EVP, but enough agreement over the experience and the recording to say this could bear greater scrutiny and perhaps even be EVP. And so I just wanted to put that out there, and I wanted to share this as an example that perhaps what people capture, it could, may be something that can be unexplained. There can also be things in a recording that can be explained away, and I want to point out this has many of those factors. But what remains is an intelligent response, and I'm going to go through the recording now so that you can see for yourself where it is that I'm explaining this. So now I'm going to share with you the first version of that recording. What I mean is this is the raw data, the actual recording itself when I did the practice. It's important to point out that yes, there are some sounds, but there are points in that recording where you'll probably hear stuff. And so I present to you this next recording.
Is there someone else here? How long have you been here? Did you live here before we did? Is there something that you want to say? Do you like this house? Can you leave us alone? Are you stuck here? Can we coexist?
So as you hear it, it's faint. There was a car that did go by, but I want you to pay attention to if there's something you want to say. I'm going to play that one again.
Is there someone else here? How long have you been here? Did you live here before we did? Is there something that you want to say? Do you like this house? Can you leave us alone? Are you stuck here? Can we coexist?
So there's recording number 2. Actually, it's the same recording, but it's played again. I want to point out that the reason why I'm using this as an example is because it does have some ambient sound in it. You do hear other things going on, but at the moment where the question is asked, do you have anything you want to say? There is something there. I hear it as go away. Some people don't understand what it says, and there have been others that say, I don't hear anything at all. So either way, it's still a good example of the scrutiny one must bear for a recording that could or couldn't be EVP. This one is very faint. It is there, and I have turned it up so you can kind of hear it a little bit more closely. And this is the sound that you're going to hear again, where he just says, what I think he says is, go away. What do you think we hear? I'm going to go ahead and play this just one more time because I think it's important that you hear that. And I want you to be the judge. Do you hear intelligible words? Do you not hear anything at all? Mind you, this clip it that I have, what I'm focusing on, has been turned up a lot. So hopefully you'll hear what I'm hearing. So as you have heard in this snippet twice now, and it's presented now for me to explain a little bit more background into it. But as you heard, could this be something? It's possible. Could it just be ambient noise, some form of pareidolia? You be the judge. This is something that, as you hear it, and I've had people tell me one way and the other, this could be just ambient background noise. But there are other people who do hear something. And so I would say the jury's still out, but this is why you want to bear scrutiny on these kind of recordings, not just because you want to believe, but because there is always the possibility that you have something that cannot be explained. This wasn't expected. This wasn't planned. This wasn't put into anything, and something took place. So I would like to point out to people that the whole experiment had no reason to try and catch anything at the time. And so moving forward, there's a little bit of history and background. The one thing I want to point out is that where this particular recording was made is on a property that was part of a planned urban development. This was a subdivision that was created from farmland. The farm belonged to a family, went by the name of Fields. The whole process of them paring off pieces of land was just their way of shrinking down as they went through and they were developing the properties. The last was given up for a business center. So the remaining household that they have, I think it's probably about a half acre in size. That house has been there since the 40s. The house itself sits with a lot of different things on the property. There are family members that live there. They believe that there is an accessory dwelling unit behind the house. There used to be a large barn in the area where that property was, and that stored a lot of equipment and what have you. But the area itself also had a lot of the vehicles parked there. A lot of quartz was stowed there. A lot of pea gravel, that was granite. And there was also a huge layer of crushed quartz and road base that was there as well. There are power lines that run through this area, and these are like not the large towering metallic ones that you would see. These are rather just the large telephone pole type power lines that went through, high voltage ones. And there was one incident where the power lines were knocked down. There's a live wire right there. It was repaired pretty quick. I was very shocked about how quickly it was taken care of. But the whole area itself was just farmland. A lot of things went on there. There were no reported deaths that were in the area, but there was the family that lived there, and it got passed over from generation to generation. Now, I did do some research, just a little bit more. I did actually try to talk to the family that lived there many years ago. I know that there were some paranormal investigators that went through. They were a local group that resided not too far away, and I did kind of locate numbers, but I have never been able to actually talk to them. So it's been one roadblock after another. But from the things that I've been able to gather with public records and what have you, did indicate that there's been an extended family living there for quite a while. And then finally, the people that lived there, I guess previously or what have you, did have their own, I guess, connection or whatnot to that land as well. The long story short for this is that they had a few people that it's questionable, but it looks like they might have actually died on the property. Some of the newspapers clippings that I did happen to find only went so far. And the notes and everything that I happen to have in there that I found indicated that they were taken somewhere, but that initially they weren't breathing. So there's a good chance that somewhere between the 60s and 70s that somebody actually didn't make it before they got to the hospital. Now, that's where I have to draw the line on it, because as I'm being vague about the information, it's because I know that when I talked with people and I asked for permission, it was asked that I don't really mention anything beyond what I found. So that's where it ends, with a name that I'm going to throw out there, but I'm not going to go into details. The other thing I would want to point out here is that with the power line and the quartz being in that same area in a lot of that land, because it was very hard to grow anything there, couldn't. The dirt wasn't very good. There were planters that were made, and they pretty much didn't do the job. They always wilted. Some of the trees made it, some of them didn't. But there again is the whole long and short of that property is that it just didn't seem to always produce anything. It was just there. And what would grow was very, very hard. The area, from a certain point of view, was conducive to storing and feeding any errant energy that was there. It's a good recipe for that kind of an environment. And there were a lot of things that were residual that happened. The other people that lived in the same property made mention of different experiences about same things. One story, footsteps on the second floor when no one was up there, except everyone on the bottom floor. There was only two people there, and they heard footsteps. And other people that were there made mention that whenever they were in the bathroom, they take a shower, they always felt like someone was watching them. Or if they were by themselves and they were even doing something as simple as vacuuming, someone was watching them. And reports of like a baby monitor where there were sounds of an interference that happened quite frequently. But there was really nothing wrong with them, because those same baby monitors were taken elsewhere and perfectly fine, crystal clear. So there were some things that were put into play to check them. There was an exchange of a brand new set of monitors. The other ones were thrown out, literally. A new set was brought in, and they had the same problems. So they figured it was just interference in the house, wiring, something that be conducting the energy. It's been explained to me that air conditioning ducts, heating ducts, can actually get in the way and cause interference. So you can certainly get weird and random sounds and interference on any kind of transmitting device. So again, was the recording one where it was pareidoia? Was it something where it might be captured EVP? Or is this something that was just timing and ambient sound? You be the judge. In every aspect here, I want this to, be considered that every ghost hunter, every paranormal investigator is going to tell you that the first thing you want to do is debunk everything. And at the end, if there is nothing left to explain it, is this EVP? Is it unexplainable? Is it what we're looking for? Is this the evidence that we can present that shows something from the other side? And that's really the goal of everything that we're trying to garner and start in these conversations. I invite you to even write and let us know what your option or opinions, your point of view is about this particular subject. And whatever it could be, please send that email to us at FridayNightDark@nitrax.com. And we again implore you, please take a look and, or should I say, take a listen. Put this under scrutiny. I am going to be posting this on YouTube. I am going to be posting this also on Facebook. You can certainly go ahead and take a listen anytime. And I invite you to put in your point of view. I do ask that you consider all of the information and circumstances. If you want more, you can always contact us. Again, FridayNightDark@nitrax.com. We look forward to seeing those communications from you. And with that, I will bid you good night. Thanks once again for being with us here at Friday Night Dark.